social distancing at the chamber. My name is Garrick Taylor. We also call this segment Happy Hour with Hammer. Joined as always by the CEO of the Arizona Chamber, Glenn Hammer. Hey, Glenn.
Good to be back.
Glenn, 3 big issues on the docket. Let's go through your day. Let's start bright and early. You dialed into where? The Billings, Montana Chamber of Commerce. Why did the Billings, Montana Chamber want to have the CEO of the Arizona Chamber on a conference call?
Well, its CEO, John Brewer, is part of the Committee 100, the U.S. Chambers group that I have the good fortune to chair, the top 100 chambers across America. And they were putting on a program with a major television station in the area with a representative from the governor, a chair of the chamber, and myself on the topic of masking up. So that's why I was on.
Yep. Give us a sense. Masks are a good idea, whether you live in Arizona, Montana, Washington, D.C., you name it. It's a good idea. I guess that they wanted to hear from you about what you've been doing to sell the soap down here and what they can do up there.
So their governor, Democrat, just recently, I think in the last week or so, put together a statewide mask requirement. Yep. I believe when the show was in the works, I'm not sure if that was the case.
I see.
So part of the reason I was brought on was we're both Western states, to sort of get a sense of the politics and how the public has reacted. So the viewers and the panelists were very interested in our experience. Mm-hmm. And my take was we went from a point where far too few Arizonans were wearing a mask before Governor Ducey around June 17th or 18th put out his order allowing localities to do mask mandates, to 90% of the state being covered by mask mandates in terms of population, and more importantly, widespread community acceptance. We went from one extreme that wasn't so good to another that is very good. And what I said is that you could see that while our cases are still much higher than we would like, and we've lost a tragic number of Arizonans, we do see some real progress when it comes to hospitalizations. And I do think there's a good chance that the worst is over, and we're going to be making some pretty dramatic progress in the upcoming weeks.
Hey, Glenn, let me ask you, in the early and actually in the recent past, Montana was cited as a success story in terms of infection rates. Is that still the case?
They have seen a surge. So, right now, according to the New York Times, when I went on it this morning, we were one of 2 states where cases are decreasing out of the 50 states. That's it. And then there's a number of states, very few, a handful, where things have stabilized. Unfortunately, the vast majority of states we're seeing an increase in the infections. So Montana is doing everything it can right now through its chambers, through the governor, through leaders, as far as I can tell, to try to make sure that they could keep the increase to a minimum. One thing I'll say, they had a terrific panelist. I just remember Dr. Bob, who had just some great information on the importance of the mitigation efforts. And I want to recount these from memory, which is always dangerous, because he threw in one that surprised me, but is important. One, wash your hands, use Purell. Okay, we know that. Socially distance, physically distance, 6 feet, that's real, because droplets, that's pretty much the span most occasion. Yep. 2, 3, like congregating, large congregations, not good. 4, masks, of course, very, very helpful. I mean, there's no dispute there medically. But number 5 is very important, and that's to have the courage to tell a friend, a colleague, a loved one that if they're not doing 1 through 4, to please do so. Yeah. And sometimes it's just a simple reminder. Sometimes it's, a text like that I got several months ago when I was at a mask factory, but didn't have it over my schnoz. Yeah. So have the guts to say you don't have the mask on right. please, make sure you're socially distancing. So
Right.
I thought it was a great program, Garrick.
Good.
I was glad to be part of it.
Good. And I know as the chair of the Committee of 100 and your colleague, John Brewer, this is another example of where business organizations, chambers of commerce, state and local, they have a role to play here in hitting numbers 1 through 5 that you just ticked off on.
Well, thanks to Allison Gilbreth's mom, we've given out 250, 300 of these or so. But the Billings Chamber, I don't think they're personally made. They've distributed about 35,000 masks thus far. So, Garrick, it's great to see chambers across America so engaged. And this is the masks are the one big thing we really can control, and it just has such a massive impact on stopping the spread of the disease. Yeah. Basically, if most people in a congregate setting are wearing a mask, the disease is not going to cause a significant spread issue.
It's not going to get around. It's good news.
It's not going to get around. It'll be stopped cold.
Well, that's good. Well, I'm glad to hear from our friends in Billings. Montana also has a great state chamber. So
great state.
If we can ever return the favor, let's do it. Issue 2, we do a regular conference call with chambers of commerce across the state and the office of Senator Kyrsten Sinema. We resumed that call today for a regular check-in. What'd you hear?
She gave us a up to the second update on what's going on with phase 4. This will be really the 5th major installment of coronavirus legislation that the Congress has considered since the outbreak began in the United States in March. So the senator gave us an update on her priorities, and I believe she may, I believe she wrote a letter in the last day or so to the majority leader McConnell and the minority leader Chuck Schumer on her priorities, as well as I believe there's an Arizona Republic story on Senator Sinema's priorities as well as Senator McSally's.
Right.
Long and the short is that, to me, the Senator Sinema's been doing an excellent job throughout this pandemic, listening to Arizonans, working with the business community for the things that we feel are important. For example, she has been a great champion on making sure that the Paycheck Protection Program is useful for as many small businesses as possible. Mm-hmm. And it looks like she's on the verge of getting a very important bipartisan proposal that she's been working on with Senator Kramer that would basically forgive the loans for those businesses that have taken out loans $150,000 or less. Yep. That's more or less the intention of the original law. And gosh, I think it would be a huge burden removed from these small businesses that are still struggling. She's also working on some ways to expand it, particularly it seems in some of the industries and areas that have been hit hard, so they might be able to get a second round, as well as she's been working on some important initiatives related to tax credits. Again, a bipartisan proposal, tax credits for businesses that are purchasing personal protective equipment or engaged in health protocols that could be costly. So she's trying to make it as cost effective for businesses as possible, particularly small and medium businesses, to do what they need to do to open and operate safely.
Glenn, business advocates, including the Arizona Chamber and the U.S. Chamber, have said whether it's part of the package or runs alongside it, there needs to be some sort of liability protections that Congress considers. Majority Leader McConnell says it's a must-have. You heard from a member of our House delegation last week, Andy Biggs, say that he wants to get that in some sort of package. Minority Leader Schumer acknowledging that something's likely to happen there, but didn't tip his hand too much. What do you think is going on?
Yeah, this Senator Sinema mentioned that there has been a warming with Senator Schumer, and that's very good. Senator Sinema has brought this up on many of the calls. She recognizes the importance of liability reform, and I know that she's going to be a help in getting good language that could be accepted by both sides of the aisle through. Because this isn't just businesses, Garrick. This is very important for schools, K through 12 schools. It's very important for universities. It's important for hospitals. It's important for nonprofits. So she recognizes the importance. I'll also say she brought up the issue of K through 12 education and universities, that's going to be an important component for the next bill, as well as flexibility and additional aid for state and local governments. And finally, I believe she mentioned the importance of having extra funding for testing and contact tracing. And I'll just tell you, when it comes to testing and contact tracing, you can't have too much. You want to make sure, particularly given how this was botched on the federal side early on, that the states are flush with resources so that we can reopen the economy, trace those who get the disease, and eventually, hopefully sooner rather than later, reopen schools and universities for the in-person experience.
Right.
So another very productive call.
Steve Mnuchin and Mark Meadows were on the Hill today. They said they expect a deal by next Friday. When Mitch McConnell was told that, apparently he laughed out loud. Senator Sinema said it's probably going to be the week after, the week of the 3rd. McConnell says as much. You said on last night's show, nothing like a deadline to get Congress to act. You're still buying that stock, probably early August. We get this done before recess.
Yeah, I'm still buying that stock, and they're not going to adjourn until they get a deal. And I should have said there'll also be something, 2 other areas that are going to be important to Arizonans. There will be something additional on unemployment insurance. It won't be the 600 top up, but it will be something significant, as well as there will be some sort of direct payments, and along the lines of the $1,200 per person.
Right.
Yeah, Garrick, I'm absolutely buying that they'll get something done. They absolutely have to. The administration wants a bill. The House passed a bill, but that bill is not going to go as is.
Right.
And the Senate recognizes the importance. Will they delay the coveted August recess? You know, I could think back, Garrick, this is going in the way back machine.
Mm-hmm.
So when it was Majority Leader Bob Dole, for those keeping score at home, the year was 1995. I was a young staffer, young legislative assistant for Senator John Kyle. And Bob Dole wanted to get a whole bunch of business done, and he threatened the August recess. A lot of senators thought he was bluffing. Well, he did something that had not happened in a long, long time. He actually was serious, and he kept them in an additional week. And I'll never forget this, Garrick, because they did get the work done that Bob Dole wanted, and they all lost a week. And vacation plans and travel plans all over the earth. Sometimes senators like to go places in August outside of D.C.
I've heard.
That was all scuttled. And I remember I came within 24 hours of losing a ticket I had to Israel because, you know, I'm a staffer. I'm a young staffer. If the Senate's in, I'm working. But I would expect you're going to have a similar dynamic. There's no way they break in August until they get a package done, particularly with the top-up unemployment insurance benefits basically ending this week.
All right, well, stay tuned. We'll be visiting with the senator again in a couple of weeks for a check-in, so looking forward to that. All right, 3rd and final item, one of your favorite topics, USMCA. We did a webinar this morning. You've been out talking about the benefits of USMCA for a long time, but you were joined by Canadian Consul Zabe Sheikh out of the LA office today. You had Juan Ciscomani from the governor's office on today. You were a special panelist. Am I forgetting anybody, Glenn?
We had the Consul General Phoenix for Mexico, Jorge Mendoza, Mr. Jorge.
Yes. Look, you are all fans of it, but this was a nice chance to get that tri-national perspective on the agreement.
It was really great, and our own Laura Ciscomani did a great job of moderating it. I didn't detect any favoritism towards her husband Juan, who's done a great job at the Arizona-Mexico Commission. What was really great, what optimism that this is going to be a great deal for all 3 countries, and whether it's manufacturing or tourism or or agriculture or cattle or education or you name it, that this is going to be a win-win-win agreement. And the numbers are just staggering, Garrick. When this is the world's most prosperous trading bloc. Before the world got hit by the pandemic, it was about 1.3 trillion and growing.
Yeah.
Lots of excitement about the new areas, whether it's e-commerce, intellectual property, small and medium-sized enterprises. So it was a great, inspired discussion.
Glenn, one of the things that you've been talking about in various media appearances, and you brought it up today, and you love our friends in Canada and Mexico, let's make that clear. But can you talk a little bit about the two poles, Team China and Team US?
The way things are breaking down right now is that it's really two big systems and two huge economies that are driving the world, and it's China in the east and the United States in the west. And I want this, ideally, this remains a strategic competition, even if there's some hostility like Mets versus Yankees or something like that. We don't want it to get any hotter than that. But it's very clear that for the United States to be successful, as we talk about bringing supply chains home, we're going to have good options even outside of the United States. Mexico and Canada are great options. And when you think about certain incredibly important sectors to the United States and to the Arizona economy, like now auto production, right, we're building the stuff together. So, there was a lot of talk that as that rivalry and that conflict between the United States and China remains in place, this agreement, the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, couldn't have come in effect at a better time.
Very good. Yeah, an excellent webinar today. We're going to make that archive of that available as well. Busy day. It always is, though, isn't it?
It was a productive day. We're very fortunate that again, sometimes there's you may read some things in the paper in terms of conflicts between this political leader and that political leader, but I could look you over Zoom with a straight face and say all of our leaders, really all of our major leaders on every level, are working as hard as they possibly can with goodness in their heart to try to solve the most difficult set of issues this country has faced in 100 years. Yep. So I thank them for that, and I feel privileged that we have some role to play in this challenging time.
Yep. Well said. All right, we will catch you on the next edition. Have a good one, Glenn.
You too, Garrick.